Nobody makes music like this without being aware that people have come before us. And there have been a lot of people that come before us. Now, I'm not just talking about Beethoven and Bach and Dizzy and Chano and Mario and Machito, Puente and Rodriguez, Mongo Santa Maria, Lou Perez, Dizzy Gillespie, Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Cannonball Adderley. Oh, so many people, I can't name them all. But we like to take their spirit and try to continue it. And we'd like you to join us and take the energy of this music and use it towards self-realization and the well-being of all humanity. Gracias.
Greetings. I'm Dewan Muhammad, producer of the exciting new Lifeforce Jazz release featuring a live recording from Bobby Matos and his Heritage Ensemble. I will be joined by radio host African Jamal Davis and engineer Lee Ray at the radio station to discuss this project further.
So we are gathered here together today to talk about someone who impacted my life in a very special way, not only as a human being out here in the world, but as a musician, and that would be Bobby Matos. And I met him through you, Dewan.
Right.
You want to talk about him?
Yeah, well, Bobby, during the period of time that I knew Bobby for quite some time, and I would often see him when I went to LA and was still resident in the Northern California. But when I moved in the mid 80s to Los Angeles, I was spending a lot of time around him. And we got involved with teaching Afro-Cuban percussion and stuff like that in the schools down there. And he would, when the world stage was being set up, he would come around and he took an interest when Billy and I were talking about this Lifeforce Jazz thing. He took an interest in that because he had been with several labels himself, and he wanted to. He liked the idea of independently producing his stuff. He had been doing some of it on his own as it was, but he was connected. He never thought about, his own label. And since Lifeforce was kind of set up for all as a collective, and everybody could really own their own projects and products, he liked that. So we started talking, and not long after we had done the first couple of records, he came in as heading up the Latin jazz department of Lifeforce Jazz. So that kind of, and he ended up doing, I guess, 6 or 7 projects himself that we have on the label, and also bringing in other Latin giants that got involved. So it became a good relationship. I mean, it was like a hit straight from the beginning. He made a decision, and it stayed right there until to the end when he passed.
By the way, again, this is Jazz Line Sessions. We're in session with Dewan Muhammad and Dr. Lee Ray. I want to get you in this conversation too, man. So let's jump to Bobby Matos' latest CD, work of art. It was recorded a long time ago, but you, Dewan Muhammad, and Dr. Ray gave it life. You breathed into it. Now we have evidence of this amazing music. 2 CD. I'm gonna hold it up. folks in Radio Land can't see it, but there you jolly well are. Bobby Matos with his Heritage Ensemble, and this was recorded, the Bay Area connection, and you know I have strong connection and affection for the how we identify you Bay Area musicians as Bajabans, Bay Area jazz and blues artists, and so La Peña is where this was recorded live.
Let's listen to a track from the CD, Cuando Baila Ramon, by spoken word artist Avacha.
This is a little something for all the men out there who love to dance, called Cuando Baila Ramon, when Ramon dances. While all the nappy-headed would-be Spanish boys stand up against the walls in Yankee sophistication, Ramon comes sliding sideways across the floor, Africa screaming at his feet, hips moving in time with the pulse of the universe. He spins and everybody holds their breath, some hold other things. Cuando baila Ramon. 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 Baila mi orinqueño negro. Sweat runs shiny rivers down his face. He drops, turns, jumps, screams, vaya, papi, vaya, vaya. Women hold their stomachs inside while all the colored Spanish boys intellectualize their non-existence. And even Ochun smiles cuando baila Ramon. 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 Ay, baila negrito. The conga drum screams an invitation to Afro-Latino hearts. Ramon hears it and accepts the invitation. The imbales flirt at his feet answer. A one-man orgy, ay, mi morenito. And all the Spanish boys frown in unison, wondering why all the people wait in line just to beg for one dance. Vaya papi, who says blondes have more funds? I too wait my turn, and even Ochun smiles cuando baila Ramon. Cuando baila Ramon. Cuando baila Ramon. Cuando baila Ramon. Baila Ramon.
Right.
So I want to go to Dr. Ray, because he is the one that really mixed this. What was the procedure, and talk about this work of art in terms of the recording of it and making sure that everything that needed to be was there.
Each microphone, that is to say, on the stage, was recorded on its own track. That means it's almost as clean a separation as you're going to get in a studio. The tracks were clean, I guess is the way to put it. And that meant that we could go in and Duan could sort of start guiding us into, there's always going to be a little bit of sculpting.
The history behind that, after we got to this recording, or before we got to the recording, is that we had scheduled Bobby's group to appear at the San Jose Jazz Festival. And this was 2007, I believe. And in the process, Bobby has a fan base in the Bay Area and everything. And so when they were advertising that Bobby was going to be at the San Jose Jazz Festival, we got a lot of calls from the people in the Bay Area because, the Northern California, in the Bay Area, San Francisco, Oakland, and all that's roughly 50 miles from San Jose. Mm-hmm. So people were saying, well, are they going to be coming up in the Bay Area while they're here? And some of the people got together. We started thinking, well, I don't know if we can pull that off. Let's see if we can find some place that maybe they can play. And so it turned out that a lot of people got together in the community in the Bay Area, and we ended up convincing La Peña to host a pre-San Jose Jazz Festival performance the night before at La Peña. So this La Peña thing, it was all pretty much spontaneous. Now, we had a couple of weeks to promote it. But we packed the house. It was a good crowd there that showed up, and the guy's name, the engineer Mauricio Acevedo is his name. He was he was there really pretty much to handle the sound, but he was accommodating the recording, and we didn't really know how it was going to come out or anything. But as Lee had said, the tracks and were pretty clean. They were very clean, and there wasn't a whole lot of. I mean, we had a lot to work with. There wasn't a whole lot that we had to do, but we had to do some fine tuning, of course, and everything. But the whole live thing really came across clean. And by the time Lee finished mastering it, well, we were pleased that, we had that to work with from the beginning. Bobby and I had sat down and we only listened to a little bit of it, but we were saying, hey, this doesn't sound too bad. And it set back another 8 years or so, before we actually started getting serious. And then next thing we know that, Bobby passed. So one of the last things that he and I had talked about when he was ill is that he said, man, I hope that you're able to do something with that stuff that we recorded, back at La Peña back in 2007. He passed in 2017.
When you are a percussionist and slash drummer, where does that come from? The lyrical melodic style in writing and composing.
Like African is saying, perhaps as a semi-naive listener, when I think of Afro-Cuban, I think of percussion being so important, so foundational to the music. And yet the blues and so on has this melodic and harmonic focus. And so I'm fascinated to hear how the band develops its own culture. How, just as a follow-up, how did he communicate? These are the changes, this is the tune, this is how I conceive the violin part, or is it more organic? Is it something that develops almost workshop-like in working the tunes?
Well, it's really a kind of a combination of both. Pianist-composer Theo Saunders contributes 2 original compositions for this date. Free South Africa, with more of a traditional African feel, and The Jazz Messenger, which incorporates more of a jazz feeling. Here's a little of The Jazz Messenger.
I have a satchel full of evidence that you all got it done, And so I just want to commend both of you and thank you too.
Thanks.
While we're at it, for your participation with the Jazz Line Institute, a nonprofit that's dealing in some of the same things that you all are about. Dr. Lee Ray is a board member. Dewan Muhammad is the chair for the advisory board. So thank you guys. In closing, give you each about 30 seconds. What do you want to say?
Yeah, big shout out to Mauricio Acevedo for producing such fine work right on the spot in the heat of the moment, and also to Dwan. The direction was just it was so precise, but so true to the spirit of what I thought was going on. It was really a fun project to work on.
That's sort of become our style.
Yeah.
We're not necessarily, in this case, we're not necessarily on stage playing an instrument or anything, but we've sort of developed a improvisational or impromptu style of working with that type of concept and transferring it over into the technology, which I'm beginning to appreciate, more and more as as we do it, because there is a certain amount of frustration can come down with that, especially when you're trying to maintain the spontaneity and the creativity that's in a project. But I'm beginning to be more comfortable with the fact that we can do that, that we can make that transition and transfer things without it becoming too sterile.
We should also add, Africa, and thank you not just for being a voice, but for being a spirit behind so much musical activity in the Bay Area that relates to this area of creativity and community. So I thank you for that.
Whether you download it or order a copy of the CD, be sure and add this piece of history to your collection.